don't rely on other people, don't rely on other people's beliefs or mentality.
Yeah.
So that was a disappointment. But then I realized, okay, but I can still be really good.
Mm-hmm.
So I studied sports, and I went to the National Sports Teachers Academy in Holland, which was situated where the National Gymnastic Training Facilitation was.
Mm-hmm. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Business Owner Elevation Podcast. Elevation Nation, I hope you are ready because we have waiting in the wings an amazing guest ready to unleash lots of knowledge and some great insights into business for you right now. So I want to welcome to the show, Tineke Rensen. How are you?
I am fine. Thank you, Leon. I'm honored to be here in your show today.
Awesome. So guys, you probably picked up on the fact that she's got a bit of an accent and she's coming to us live and direct from the Netherlands. So I just want to say welcome once again. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump into her bio so you guys get a bit more information as to who she is. And that way, you know, we can break this interview down and then we're going to mix it, dice it, and get into a few questions that you guys know that we normally have. So let's kick off. If you want to know how to accelerate your business, Tineke Rensen is the person to listen to. She's been a businesswoman for 28 years. She started out by being a typewriter, living in a caravan, and built an international outdoor and survival business from scratch. I'm sure there's going to be lots of interesting stories from that. She sold it after 22 years, and nowadays she is a business mentor and helps business women to grow their business to its full potential. She knows all too well what it's like to do business the male way. And because of that, what she did most of her career, now she integrates the female and male way into basically a very strong force which cannot be avoided, and teaches this to other men and women too. So Tineke is a mother, a former sports athlete. I'm sure we're going to find out more about what that was. She was a national champion of her country. She's a speaker, business mentor, and author of the book Maximum Business Growth for Women. 8 secrets from a national champion to accelerate your business. She's the most experienced and most all-rounded mentor. And I just want to say, Tineke, welcome to the show once again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for reading all that lovely stuff.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So let's kick off then. One of the questions that we normally ask is, what is your elevated success quote? And the reason why we ask this is to find out, is there a quote? Is there a mantra? Is there a way that you work, a particular thing that you recall upon that has helped you in your career and takes you towards success now?
Well, my favorite quote is from Walt Disney.
Okay.
If you can dream it, you can do it. Or if you can see it, you can do it.
Cool. So how does that, reflect itself in the way that you do business?
Everything starts with an idea. Everything starts with a dream, with a drive, with a passion. And if I cannot, I see things in my head. I'm visual oriented.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if I cannot see it, I cannot feel something about it. And seeing and feeling things makes me feel passionate about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that and then I can initiate action.
Okay.
And just continue action. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So let's get stuck into more of this bio then. So I want to move into more of your story. So if you could spend, 5 or so minutes to tell our audience a bit more about who you are, your journey. So where it started for you in terms of your career, or even just the moment you felt, that entrepreneurial spark within you, and bring us right up to date with what you're doing today.
All right. Something you might not expect is, if I had known what it'd be like to be a business owner, I don't know whether I would have started like 28.
I think most people would agree with you.
Do they? Oh, okay. Many business owners, I thought they don't like to admit it. I started when I was 25, and I never had any dream or ambition to be a business owner. My family, they are no business owners other than farmers, so definitely they run businesses, but my uncles, some of my uncles, but I had no experience really nearby or close by when I was young. I was always into sports. When I was young, there was only one dream I had, and that was being the best in sport. And when I got a little older, the dream I had was being a national champion with gymnastics. I was 12. And that was my goal. But I soon realized you need your parents to be very good at sports.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just in a little local gymnastic club, and it was too small for my ambition. I needed to go to another one. They were too far away. My parents had no car. I needed to go on the bike, and they wouldn't let me because I was too young on my own in the evening. It was too far away.
Yeah.
So they didn't have the same ambition. So I learned already that if you want to achieve something, you have to go for it and do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Don't rely on other people. Don't rely on other people's beliefs or mentality. So that was a disappointment. But then I realized, okay, but I can still be really good.
Mm-hmm.
So I studied sports, and I went to the National Sports Teachers Academy in Holland, which was situated where the National Gymnastic Training Facilitation was.
Mm-hmm.
So all my spare time, I was watching the Dutch coach teaching the Dutch women.
Yeah.
So somehow I always felt, okay, I'm not going to make that. I was very talented, but I didn't have the right teachers around me when I was young. So I had a big ambition. Due to this sports school, I needed to go for an internship at some point, and it was more than just gymnastics.
Okay.
And somehow I turned up at a club where they organized hiking and kayaking activities in Belgium, in the Ardennes.
Okay.
And I was just a participant. In the evening, I needed to do some entertainment, some recreational games and stuff. That was my internship. And during the day, I was just one of the participants. And we went whitewater kayaking. It was a completely new sport for me. Never done it before. Nobody else did. The teachers, I think they only did it 3-4 times more than we did. So it was, looking back at it, it was horrible. And I nearly drowned during this first trip. It was not a good experience. And then later on in the week, they did another trip of kayaking. And I said, I pass. I'm not going to go. Everybody else went. So I felt a bit of a party pooper, but I was just too scared. And then I always refer to this as a moment faith stepped in. Yeah. Because there were 2 women in my group, and somehow they spent like 15-20 minutes to persuade me to go into the kayak just once more. And in the end, they succeeded. So I did. And in the beginning, it was horrible. I was crying. I was so fearful.
How old were you at this stage?
I was 18.
Okay.
And but somehow I started to manage, and I mean I was good at sports, any sport, and I started to like it. Looking back at it, it was totally irresponsible what they did, because they had off and I was there on my own in the back. Totally irresponsible, but I had no clue. I survived, and I thought, wow, this is it. I want to know more about it. So I started to book kayak trips and be a participant, grow. And in the end, you're not going to believe this. Well, you might, because you read my bio. When I was 38, I became the national champion of whitewater freestyle kayaking. But not only that, I built my business around this sport. I started when I was 25. I was working for an outdoor sports and survival business. And very quickly I moved up the ladder in this business. So I was responsible for all the kayaking instructors, teaching them, assigning them to various locations in the summer holidays. And I realized, like the same experience I had when I started, you really have to be good to be able to teach others and to be responsible and to look after the safety, because there's big risks involved. And I didn't want to be responsible for the risks I needed to take with all my team. It was just too big for me. And because I couldn't agree with the level of the people I needed to assign to teach other people to kayak. So I quit, and I thought, like a lot of entrepreneurs who start, I can do this a lot better. I think I did, because they went bankrupt, and I sold my business after 22 years.
Wow.
And it wasn't just kayaking. It started with kayaking, but soon we started climbing, we started mountain biking, we started, it was canyoning, whitewater rafting, everything came.
Yeah.
And I had to learn everything from scratch. I had no experience, nothing. I was just enthusiastic and thought, hell, why don't try this? And then I had my business and the phone didn't ring. It's the typical beginner's mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's typical women as well, we are really good at launching before everything is ready and it all needs to be perfect. And then when we launch, what's going to happen?
Yeah. So what happened next?
Yeah, what happened? I was still working as a tour guide because I did that on the side in the summer and in winter, and as a ski teacher in the winter.
Yeah.
So I had huge audiences that I met every season. So those were my first customers.
Okay.
I always pitched a little at the end, at the end of the week, if you want to see me again, you can book one of my classes and we'll have some fun.
No, that's a good thing, because I know often, especially when I'm doing marketing and working with my clients, I always say the low-hanging fruit, and there's another example.
Yeah, typically, yeah. And those people already knew me. They knew what I was capable of. They knew that I could organize. They knew I was fun to hang out with. So, yeah, they came back.
You liked you and trusted you. That's awesome. So what happened next
exactly.
then? Because I'm really interested how you took it from there to, selling the business.
Looking back at it, you can call it a strategy, but I wouldn't advise this to anybody. But I always did the things I said I wasn't going to go to do. Mm-hmm. I said, I'm not going to employ staff. But my ambition was bigger than the not. Yeah. The not wanting to. So at one point I needed, I have 10 people now. That group's too big for me on my own. So I need to have somebody else. Okay. And then there was this moment, I have quite a few groups. I need to have more kayaks. Yeah, but I can rent. And this is how my business grew organically. I said, I will never buy mountain bikes because there's too much maintenance and there's too much accidents. Then I said, my guys, they are kayak instructors. So if we are going to do climbing, we outsource it. But it was so expensive to outsource this to other companies that I thought, hey, what if I teach my guys to do this and we'll do it ourselves? Mm-hmm. And this is how I grew my business organically. Before I started, I went to the bank and it was soon very clear to me that they were not going to give me any money because everything was outside of my country. And they were frightened and they had no clue. They didn't know my branch at all because it was totally new when I started. I was like the fourth or the fifth business in my country who started. So it was, we built it up from scratch to a professional branch. That's how I grew. The things I didn't want to, but they appeared to be necessary, and I did it anyway, and that's how it grew. Wow. And then in the end, the financial crisis in 2008 started, and I have always been driven by growth, expansion. That were some big motivators for me, and my business didn't grow anymore. Looking back at it, I could say, wow, consolidation was really, really good during this period. But the team grew too big. In the peak season in the summer, at one point there were 25 people working in 4 different countries, and I never really liked being a manager. For me, that didn't feel like entrepreneurship. It came with the job, but I didn't like the team part, although I needed it. And they liked me, but I didn't like the stuff, the things they had going on between them. And and every year I had to start with new guys and girls because it was a season job. So they couldn't make a living out of it. It was more of a hobby for them and to have a good time and a fun time. So every year we faced the same issues. So for me, that was, although I was employing a staff the whole year round, for maintenance and for the guy who was the team manager,
Yeah.
administration at my office.
Yeah.
But still, it grew big, and I wanted to do something else. There was a day, and I woke up and I thought, hey, you can call it midlife crisis. I don't know. I don't know if women have it, but I thought, is this what I want to do until I'm 65?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was a clear answer. I said no. There is no challenge anymore. I'm not enjoying it as much anymore. It gets routine. I had this love-hate relationship with my business. So then I decided to sell it, and that went well.
Good. So just a quick question: did you sell it to a competitor, or
I did.
Cool.
Yeah,
because
and that was the only option, because it's at that time, this is 6 years ago, and probably still the same. You have to know the branch to be able to see where the money is, because if you just look at the balance sheet, you think, wow, it's not a healthy business, which there's a lot of extra stuff to do, but you have to know it.
That makes sense. I mean, we've had guests in the past before who said that they actually, the set up businesses already knowing a competitor who would be the right person to buy them when the time came.
Wow.
So, it makes sense. That's why I just thought, let me ask, because it's something that I have with my clients, where when you know your market, and you know who's in the marketplace, who, at some point, whether you're going to buy them or they buy you, it just makes it easier, because actually you're building up towards something. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
So then
that's exactly what they did. For them, it was a great deal, because they had all the costs that I had.
Yeah.
But they only took they bought the whole business, but they didn't need to pay for insurance. They didn't need to pay for an extra office. Everything. So for them, it was they had it back in a year. It was really profitable for them. Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. So what happened then? You sell the business, and now the next 6 years leading up to now?
Yeah, that was a challenge. I had no clue. I knew at some point I wanted to be a professional speaker, because I'd seen sometime at a point in Holland, I'd seen T. Harv Eker on the stage.
Yeah, great guy.
In Holland, 5,000 entrepreneurs. That was huge in Amsterdam. And I entered his room, I saw him on stage, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. I want that.
Yeah.
And it kept on my mind. And there was this other thing, and this is also typical women, I must admit. I had no clue where I was good at. I could turn myself down and say, I can only do sports, and I can only do travel business. That's all. Looking at the overview, I was pretty good in entrepreneurship.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a woman. So I had to evolve myself. I was good at sales with my former business. Now I had to sell myself. That was difficult. I had no experience in coaching, so I had to gain experience. I had to gain self-confidence. And I had to start to rely and trust myself. And okay, hey, but if they ask me a question, I know that, because I've done that.
Yes, yeah.
After so many years, you've done nearly everything.
Absolutely. No, that's cool. That's cool. So now you run a coaching business. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I call it. I'm a business accelerator. Okay. I don't like the word coach, because that's not. I cannot separate myself from the rest, and I think I'm a lot more, and I bring a lot more to the table than just coaching.
No, that's cool. That's cool. I like it, the business accelerator. And I know we're probably going to touch on it a bit later as well. And I believe you've written a book recently, yeah?
Yes, I have.
Cool. All right. We'll touch on that a bit later. So then I want to dive into maybe some of what's happened in either the past 6 years and even what happened in with the previous businesses. I want to ask a question of, you've had some great successes, and I'm sure, we'll touch on maybe a couple more a bit later on, but in business, sometimes things don't work out the way that we intend, and we go through failures. Could you share with our audience one of the biggest failures that you've, come into, it's come into your place of being in business, and really just to identify what were the lessons that you learned to come out of it? And the reason why we ask this question is purely so our audience get an idea of if they're about to hit this roadblock or they're going through something like this, maybe they can take, you know, some of the ideas or concepts that you share with us.
Okay, employing the wrong people.
Great. So tell us more.
And I see that with clients. I work a lot with women business owners, although I work with men too. But women find it more difficult to sack somebody. I had exactly the same. So keep working on with an employer for too long is a big mistake. I think it affects the rest of your team.
Yeah.
It affects your own pleasure in working. And yeah, the total atmosphere changes. So it's difficult to step up then and to say to somebody, okay, now listen, this is not going to work. And especially in my country, that's a hell of a job to get rid of somebody.
Okay.
You know, they're changing the law now, but if we sack somebody, we need to pay them a lot of money. If somebody gets sick, we need to pay them 2 years sick leave.
Wow.
Yeah, we're the worst country in.
I think everybody in the UK or US right now watching is thinking,
yeah,
what?
come and work in Holland. We have plenty of work, guys. Yeah.
And great sick pay.
But especially for the US, you know, it's la la land here at our country. Yeah.
Wow. So that's
recently,
interesting.
Just 2 weeks ago, I was launching my book at a fair in England, Wales, and I researched what audience would come there. Would there be sufficient amount of female business owners? And this was all cool.
Yeah.
So it was quite an investment. I traveled there by car because I needed to have a lot of stuff, banners, books. I couldn't take this by plane.
Yeah.
And not even half of the people they promised showed up, and some 160 people signed up for my presentation, and only 30 were there. And out of them were only 8 business owners. So financially, it was a really, really bad investment. And during the day, I noticed, my mood was dropping really, really bad because I'm results oriented.
Yeah.
And I really had to work with my mind. I okay, hold on, Tineke, maybe you're here for a different reason. Yeah. Maybe you're not here to make money. Maybe you're here. And in the evening, but financially, it was a big blooper. I paid a lot of money, about 3,500 euros altogether. And I'm not going to tell you how many books I sold, but you know, I'm embarrassed. But in the evening, I was sitting next to, and I don't know whether you've heard of the film The Secret. Probably you have. Yeah.
Yeah, I've watched it. I think we have the book on the shelf.
Well, there you go. I was sitting next to Marie Diamond at the Gala Fit dinner, and she invited me to her European Leader Influencers Club. So you know, you never know what's gonna happen. What I think it's because of, and it was not, she was not supposed to sit there. Yeah. I totally relied on my feeling, my gut feeling, and then, you know, fate steps in. Like I told you before, this was one of those moments.
Awesome.
And also, I politely talked to the organization and said, you know, hey, this is not what I expected. And they were really enthusiastic to have me as a foreign company on their in their fair. So now they're working on a proposal. So I will be back at some point to speak for female business leaders. So
good,
you know,
very good.
If I can look at it 2 ways, I can see that financially it was a big disaster, but many other things are going to happen in the future, which will probably make me a lot more money than when I would have sold all my books there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes you've pointed out the thing that can happen to all of us. We have the blinkers on it. You know, let me just get my microphone back here. It's falling out. I'm gonna have to come up with a better solution in the future to make sure these stick. But the point I was getting to is sometimes we have blinkers on. You know, we have this saying here, it's like with the horses we focus on the one thing. So for you, it was like, how many books can I sell? Get the results. And I think sometimes we also then see the opposite when we do kind of we allow ourselves to become more creative. And just like you said, it was later at an evening gala dinner, you sit next to somebody, and actually, if you hadn't made the decision to actually be at the event, you probably wouldn't have been at the meal. And I think, this is also a reflection of who you are and who we are as entrepreneurs, because sometimes things aren't the greatest in terms of what we expect and our expectations around something. But I think if you can make something out of it, it just goes to show how resourceful you are. And I think that's probably the biggest thing out of everything, because if you went into this with the wrong kind of mindset around it, you'd probably, you'd have been to the event, gone back home. What a waste of time that was, and we all know those people who live in that world where it's just, doom and gloom, doom and gloom. And so for me, I think even just sharing that, because it's, it's pretty a recent event for you. And I think it's also important for our listeners to hear that kind of story that you shared there, Tineke, because it is one of those things you invest and you kind of, you're looking at something great because you've got this energy around it, and then it just doesn't quite work the way, you intend. But I think that's a great story to share with our audience. So let's flip it on its head then.
Well, just one
thing. Go for it.
With the mindset where my energy dropped, I would not have gone to the party in the evening. I thought that would have been a waste of time. Yes. I paid for it, but I would not have gone. I had a big night the night before. I was out on my own, and somewhere I happened to have a very good time. And I thought, let's not go. But working on my mind and thinking maybe you're here for a different reason, I did go. And then, So it's definitely, your attitude is really important.
Yeah, I forgot who said it on one of our previous interviews. I think it says your attitude determines your altitude. And so absolutely.
Definitely. I agree, totally.
So let's flip it then. What has been for you, or if you just want to think of one or maybe two, I don't mind. But what has been your biggest success to date, and how did that come about?
Okay. One of my supposedly being the biggest successes turned out in a nightmare. So my dream has been to be in front of 1,000 entrepreneurs, and I was supposed to speak in London at the 29th at an entrepreneur event, but October, so very recently. Somehow the organization didn't get things working out, and I had a contract, and they never ever answered anymore. But through this contract, I made many decisions, and anyway. So I was going to fulfill my dream, which didn't happen. So that's still my next dream, to be in front of 1,000 entrepreneurs. I think my biggest success is starting to go international in May last year. I have my international book. I wrote it and published it in just about a little more than 2 months. I've been speaking in Albania, in Dubai, in Paris, in London, in Wales. It's just all happening now. So I think that's it. I always wanted to go international with this business. And at one point I listened to somebody saying to me, maybe it's better if you first establish yourself in your country and then you grow. And I think I should not have listened to that advice, although now I have everything ready. So it's a lot easier to roll out everything internationally. But the first moment I made that decision, everything changed. Within a month, I had a website. In 2 months' time, I had my book. In 2 months' time, I was already speaking on various stages. I have international clients already now. Good. So I think that's since May last year. No, I mean this year, excuse me, 2017. Okay. So just before summer.
So everything's pretty fresh with you then, Tineke?
Working internationally, yes. I've done this in my own country, but then we're talking now.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't mean it. Obviously, you've been in the game sometimes, so. No, that's really cool.
But I'm fresh, but it doesn't feel that way. My other business was international too. I've worked as a tour guide in many countries, Mexico and Turkey, and a lot of places in Europe. So I speak a lot of languages. So it felt like, now I'm back in the game.
Good, good. No, that's
Yeah.
great to hear. So in terms of obviously these successes, you've spoken, in different countries, and probably a lot of people, they're in a position where, maybe like you, they heard establish yourself in your own country before, you go abroad, or, before you even dream big, which is really, it could be, it can act as a limiter. And I've heard this advice been given to me in the past as well, like, establish yourself, blah, blah, blah. What advice would you give our listeners, Elevation Nation, right now, if they're in a similar position and that, there's people who they can serve outside of their country? What would you tell them to do?
If they could serve people out of
Yeah,
their own
yeah,
country
yeah, if they
and somebody
can,
else
or
tells them not to do.
yeah. So, if they're thinking about it, but they're, whether it's confidence or fear, what advice would you give them?
Well, never let fear run your decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Never.
Mm-hmm. So I think one of the points I'm trying to get to is because obviously somebody, or you had advice of, establish yourself first in 2016 in your own country. If somebody is like listening right now, is that something that they should pay attention to, or should they just go after
All
something?
right.
Yeah.
I think you should listen to your own feeling and listen to your own desires.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to go international, but in my country, you cannot dream big. We have a very Calvinistic style, and we're very proud of that. Although, in the Middle Ages, we were one of the leading countries in the world doing business internationally in Holland. But that's not the case. That's not our attitude and our mentality, especially not of the working class.
Yeah, yeah.
So listen to your own feeling, listen to your own common sense, because when you do something from motivation, from drive, things fall into place.
Yeah.
Like I'm only international for 4 or 5 months now, and see how much has happened. And okay, I've did all that myself, but a lot of things just came I don't know, out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like this interview I explained to you before we started. So when you do what you need to do on this in your life, I think you're being guided, or you're being helped. Although nothing comes for granted, and you have to work and you have to do the thing. But yeah, I really believe that you will get many coincidences on your way too. Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing that. So in terms of moving forward then.
Yeah.
So what's the current big thing, in your opinion, that our community needs to be aware of right now?
Well, it's an international community, isn't it? Yeah. How small the world is.
We have international community who listen to the podcast. Yeah.
So how small and how small the world is, how close we are connected, how easy it is to do business anywhere in the world. We just need a laptop, and internet is nearly everywhere. So it's a great time to do business. I think I'm so fortunate, and we are all so fortunate to live now in this era where so many things are possible. So yeah, it's easy now. A lot easier with the internet.
So a great time to do business, in your opinion. I agree as well. It's one of them things where, before, even just the mentality of business, and it's like you say, I know you was commenting obviously on the kind of the social norms of Holland, and the way that your people think and so on. And I've had this before. My partner, she's from Poland, and again, there's kind of there's traits of countries, and a lot of the times people look to the West as an example of that's more of a relaxed approach, or a different approach, or an innovative approach. And I think just what you've said is that something I experienced when I was going through the modes of running businesses in the years gone by, is that I used to have this 9-to-5 mentality. And it took some time to actually get rid of it, because it came from being an employee, and then it came from being, well, that's the norm, that's what everybody does, 9-to-5. And then sometimes people would then comment, because my schedule was just different to other people's. Like, I'd take my kids to school in the morning, I wouldn't have to turn up to the office, you know, specifically at 9 a.m. or whatever the time was in the morning, because actually my work revolved around me just having access to the internet. I'm a marketer. That's all I need.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's an important thing just to say it is a great time, you know, to do business. And yeah, everybody watching and listening right now, go and do it. So let's move forward then. Now, we spoke briefly and we touched on this earlier, and hopefully you're going to mention a bit more about your book at this point. So I'd like to ask you, what great book or audio resource have you read or would you recommend to our listeners right now?
Yeah, my book, of course. It's launched just 1.5 weeks ago. It you already mentioned it in the introduction.
Mm-hmm.
Maximum Business Growth for Women.
Awesome.
8
So
secrets
tell
from a
me.
national champion to accelerate your business.
Great. So tell
And
us more about the book.
yeah, I created it. Well, there's two things. I created a system, the blueprint for a successful business makeover.
Mm-hmm.
It's 8 areas in business where I can see that entrepreneurs can improve on many fields within this area.
Yeah.
It's about mindset. It's about planning. It's about branding, about team, accelerate your business, flow and ease. You've heard I do like to have help from the universe.
Mm-hmm.
What support do you get? And smart business tools. How can you systemize? How can you use the internet? How you can use the online? So that's the system I created, and I will always work in these 8 areas. And basically, that's why I call myself one of the most all-round business accelerators in the world, because it covers everything in business. And I know everybody, every marketeer advises you have to be specific, but I don't want to be specific because I can offer everything, and that's what's in the book. The other reason why the book needed to come is I particularly like to help female business owners to grow their businesses. Because I think men do a really good job looking from the success point of view, the financial point of view. Many businesses, many big businesses. And I think, but the thing is, the language which is spoken is the language that you guys speak. And if we women speak that kind of language, it's okay for us, and we can grow and we can do business together. But we have a different kind of language. We have a different kind of approach, a different kind of mentality, different skills even. We have no focus. We do not know how to create systems. Okay, I generalize. I know.
I'm going to come back at you in a moment.
Money is not that important for women. But there's so many other things we do really well. Like we have such a good service and product. Often we wait too long before launching. We are very good at collaborating. We are very good at holding the space for everybody so that nobody drops out. Like I told you, we don't like to sack team members. And I think there needs to be more balance in the business world. And there's no special programs. You know, in my country, there's programs for corporate women. There's programs for political women. For business, in my country, they say, you know, business owners, they just have to organize themselves. We are not going to sponsor or provide anything. And I think that's a bit foolish because, you know, everybody agrees when the Lehman Brothers were the Lehman Sisters. We would not have had such a big financial crisis. So that's the book is about the 8 areas, and the foundation of the book is a study I did. I did a study, a research amongst nearly 400 women in my country, self-employed business owners and business owners with staff. About 28% business owners and the rest self-employed, and that's also the same amount of how the female business owner society is divided in my country. And I asked them 29 questions. What do you need? How big is your business? Do you make a financial planning? Do you set targets? Do you know where you want to be at 5 years? And some lot of interesting stuff I got as a result. And then I thought, you know, we need to change something. I think we need to do business the female way, because the successful female business owners usually are the ones who adopt and implement the way men do business. That's at least what I used to do.
Okay.
You know,
I mean,
looking back.
yeah. I mean, it's really, really interesting. Obviously, what you're saying, there's a bit of controversy in, you know, like you say, generalizing.
I know.
I mean, the book, it's Maximum Business Growth for Women, 8 Secrets from a National Champion to Accelerate Your Business. I think in terms of, you know, just what I'm getting from it, and, you know, what I've looked into you before you came on the show, Tineke, is that the way I see it, it's like, what you're bringing to women is to show them how they can infuse feminine energy and masculine energy to, you know, provide this driving force that you speak of. And you know, there's different things, and I think, you know, depending on our life's filter and how each individual sees things, never mind the country, but individual, you know, we all see different things in people. And I think, you know, from what I've seen, you sent me the methodology as well by message when we were speaking on Facebook as well. So I looked at your 8-step formula type of thing, and I think, you know, it's right. It's when you kind of stack everything up and you bring that power forward that you can have a successful business. And the point I wanted to kind of conclude on with just touching on your book is that Napoleon Hill had, you know, one of the greatest books that there is, Think and Grow Rich. And he went out and interviewed, you know, at the time, the millionaires, the best performing business owners. And for once of a better explanation, they were all men at the time, because, you know, it was predominantly a male driven, I would say, economy at the time of that book. And for you to go out and do, you know, 400 interviews just shows the level that, you know, the book's going to bring, because out of that information, I'm sure there's lots of great things that people can gather from your book, as well as I know you do have a report, which I'm sure we'll touch on in a few moments, that people can get access to, which you told me about earlier. So where can people get the book if they want a copy?
Of course, on Amazon and on my own website, maximumbusinessgrowthforwomen.com.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that, Tineke. So as we get close to wrapping up, then what I'd like to ask you is, what's the best way for our audience, Elevation Nation, to find out more about you? I know you just mentioned the book website. Do you have a website? What social media profiles are you most active on?
Okay. I'm very active on Facebook. 3-4 posts on my private profile. I still don't have 5,000 followers, so if you send me friend requests, and when you are a business owner, I accept usually, because there's a lot of men and women who I don't know and have hardly any profile. You know, I know they're scam. I think they are scam anyway. I have a website, powerfulbusinessacademy.com. Next year, I will have the website powerfulbusinesswomensclub.com. It's already registered. I want to establish clubs for like-minded women like me in my country, but in various countries, where women can network and can do business internationally. And on my website, you can have my free copy of the study, of the research that I did, how women do business. If you click on that, you will get the report for free. You give me your email address. Of course, we know the trick. And then you have this. It's about 40 pages about conclusions of the study.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's great. So guys, if you are looking to find out a bit more about how women work in business, go and get that report, visit the websites. So thanks for sharing that, Tineke. So again, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out for doing the interview with our Elevation Nation. What I want to say is, for our listeners, once again, thank you for listening. And remember, Elevation Nation, it's through your support that we continue to grow and bring you more great guests just like Tineke today. So please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and Stitcher Radio, and we'll continue to elevate you. Now, just to wrap up, guys, for me, I'm sure you'd agree, actually, because there's a lot of freshness about what Tineke is bringing, especially, you know, her book just coming over to the UK recently, and then speaking, you know, in different countries. I know you mentioned Dubai, Albania, and a few others. So she's actually living it. She's transitioned and pivoted from one market, one industry into another. And for me, it just goes to show, guys, you know, just put your mind to it and go out there and do it, because if you can dream it, you can do it. Tineke Rensen, thank you very much. It has been my pleasure to have you on our show.
Well, the pleasure is totally mine. I feel very honored, and I hope you guys, if you have questions, please find me online. And I'll answer them very gladly.